Annual Conference 2024. Are you ready? Believe me, it's hard to beat a person who keeps showing up every day. It shifts from winning to outlasting. And this year, the TIP Annual Conference has reached its outlasting realm. These are the words that hit us at the dawn of the introduction of this year's Annual Conference 2024 by Wendy Ologe, Africa's #1 parenting coach herself. My name is Joy Eshimokai. I am a public speaking coach. I am the founder of Prostic Life Academy, and I am the official MC of the Intentional Parents Academy. We have grown tremendously over the years, and it's all thanks to you, our amazing community of intentional parents. Let's take a quick look back at our incredible journey. In 2018, we pioneered online conferencing to reach thousands of parents for free. In 2019, we had 25 coaches reach over 10,000 parents. In 2020, 27 coaches reached over 30,000 parents. In 2021, we had 30 coaches over 7 days reach over 50,000 parents. In 2022, we had 32 coaches over 7 days reaching 100,000 parents with over 1 million impressions on YouTube. In 2023, we had 30 coaches again over 7 days reach 150,000 parents with over 2 million impressions on YouTube. And now, TIP Conference 2024 with the team Raising Kings, those who make them, and those who sit at the table with King, with an outstanding 34 speakers. By the way, have you attended the TIP conference for 7 years straight? Then you will understand when I say you don't want to miss any session. It is an array of coaches from all over the world. The Academy has brought you the who is who of parenting to teach you parenting and make the world a better place. We are bringing you key players at this year's conference. Share the name of that speaker who you can't wait to see. Do you know any parents or parents to be? Share with them, tag them now. Spread the word and let's make this the most impactful TIP annual conference yet. Thank you for being a part of this incredible journey. We can't wait to see you at the TIP Academy. My name is Joy Eshimokai. Together, let's raise kings.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Live from Abuja, Nigeria. My name is Mr. Sylvester Okaji, and this is my beautiful wife.
I am Oluwago. You have to have time for your children. Hence the oath that you take when you come into the inner circle, that parenting is about me and I have time to parent my children. We practice essentialism in all that we do with our children.
So today we are advising parents, fathers, mothers, parents-to-be, young adults about getting married to join the inner circle in 2025.
Oh yes, the slot is available now. Book your slot today with 5,000 or as a couple 10,000 and get to pay your remaining balance before December 1st when the next cohort was signing. Welcome to Inner Circle.
Thank you for this opportunity, my amiable mama, amazing coach, Wendy Ologe, for this beautiful opportunity to moderate this fourth session. Thank you. I'm so honored and blessed, and I'm grateful to reckon with you. Audience, participants, and my amazing yadders, please let me see your comment in the comment section. How the first session has been, how the second session has been, the third session, and how you want this fourth session to also be. I'll be moderating with my wonderful moderator, my co-moderator, Marianne. I'm sure she will soon come on the stream. Ma'am, good to have you here. Good afternoon from here.
Good evening from Port Harcourt. Good evening, everybody. How has the fire been? My name is Marianne. It's so nice to be here. Thank you so much, Coach Wendy and the TIP team for this opportunity. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Thank you very much. It's an honor, such an honor to be here. You know, I haven't been a Yather for about 3 years and haven't followed the annual conference for about 4 years. You can imagine the privilege I feel right now, the honor to be one of the moderators for this beautiful session. And I hope we're all pumped. I'm really pumped. Coach Sia Kibla, she literally threw us off our chairs, off our seats. You know, now that you know that yelling is our adult tantrum, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to continue yelling? Or would you find a way to manage your emotions? Right? Coach has one of those courses in the academy is the no yelling challenge, right? And a lot of people, I got to, you know, speak to some people about it and they signed up. And right now, there's amazing transformation going on in their life. So if you think you can parent without yelling, you're wrong. That's normalized nonsense, like my coach would say. It's such an honor to be here. Thank you, Olamipo.
All right, Marianne, thank you so much for that beautiful introduction of yours and letting everyone to know that yelling is a no-no. It has to be with, it has to be with you, controlling your emotions. Your child is not making you to yell. Okay, if you're saying your child is making you to yell, what about your bosses? What about our spouses? Will we be shifting the responsibility instead of us owning it to ourselves? You know, thank you so much. Now, can our amazing media team roll out the bio of our delectable, amazing speaker for the first session of the biggest, largest parenting Shiloh of our time? Please take it away. Thank you.
Online community. Based in the United States, she's passionate about helping stepmoms navigate the unique challenges of blended family life. With 13 years of stepmom experience, Alicia is a wife, a stepmom of 2, and a mom of 1. When she's not sharing insights on parenting, marriage, and life, you can find her working out, running, spending time with her family, or tending to her garden. Alicia's goal is to continue empowering stepmoms everywhere with her relatable advice and no-nonsense approach. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Intentional Parent Annual Conference 2024, Alicia Krasko.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited to be here. That was quite the entrance. I'm like, wow, my hands are sweating. Ooh, that was really nice. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. It's really good to have you here. And I can see the session is already buzzing. We can't wait to learn, relearn, and unlearn from you. Ma'am, you just have 40 to 45 minutes for this session. And I will be right back, and also my co-moderator, to ask questions for our amiable viewers and participants. Thank you so much. You have the floor, ma'am.
Perfect. Thanks. I just found out that I am after Celia and I know what kind of presenter she is. And so I'm like, oh man, let's see what happens. But I can talk fast. I'll try to be mindful of the time. My name is Alicia. I'm a stepmom coach, as you just found out, but I'm going to share my screen. I have a little presentation for you guys to follow along with. There will be questions at the end. So I'll try to look at the comments and see what's going on there, but no promises. Give me 1 second here. Oops. Clearly, it's my first time here with Canva as well. So hello, as you know, I'm being asked to speak on navigating blended family dynamics. And if you are a step parent, you know what this is going to be like. But let's do a little bit of an introduction. First, let's talk about you. Where in the world are you? Do you have kids of your own? How many step kids do you have? Do you not have kids of your own? How old are your step kids, or how old are your kids? How long have you been a step parent? What's going on there? And then a little bit about me. I'm Alicia Krasko. I am a stepmom coach. As you heard in the introduction, I've been a stepmom for 13 years. I've been a part-time stepmom. That's what the PT stands for. I've also been a full-time stepmom. And now, as a stepmom goes, I'm an empty nester. So both of my stepkids are out of the house. They are 20 and 23. I have a 23-year-old stepdaughter and a 20-year-old stepson. And then I have an ours baby that is 5. So I have a little bit of an age gap there between them, 15 and 18 years. And I also have an age gap between my husband and I of 16 years. So I feel like I've seen like all of the ages. When I met my stepkids, they were 8 and 11. And then now, like I said, they're 20 and 23. So there's a lot that's changed in those 13 years. And the stories I could tell you if these walls could talk. But let's get into an overview of like what we're going to go through today. So first, we're going to talk about how to blend. We're going to talk about challenges and how to overcome them. I'll give you some ideas and activities to help with blending, because that's kind of the hard part of blending, because it's like, where do you fit in? Where do your stepkids fit in? Where's your partner fit in? Where's your guys' relationship fit in? So we'll kind of get into all of those things. Again, if you have questions, please, please, please ask them. I will absolutely try to get through all of the questions at the very end. Then we'll talk about navigating being a step parent. And I have a few words of encouragement for you at the very end. And then, like I said, I do have Q&A at the end. So first, how to blend. What does that even look like? And I will start with this. It is very different in every single family. What worked in my family might not have worked in Celia's family, might not work in Nikki's family. You are the expert on your own family. So some things may apply to you and some things may not. So it's kind of like a buffet. Pick and choose the things that you do and don't like here. So understanding blended families, let's start there first. What is a blended family? A blended family is going to be either somebody that has been divorced with kids, whether it's a mom or a dad, and then they've repartnered with somebody else. Maybe they're just dating, maybe they are married, but there are kids in the situation. And just so you know, you are not alone in this role. It is very, 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 very hard to blend a family. First marriages with the US Census Bureau, it says 50% of first marriages end in a divorce, and then you go into a blended family, a remarriage, and that jumps to 71% if you've brought kids into it. It's just that much harder contending with exes and kids and schedules and all of the things. So blended families look like a lot of different things. But let's talk about establishing new traditions. Why that's important is because as a step parent, when you're coming in, you feel like the outsider. And this is something that kind of sucks to hear, but you are the outsider because everyone else has already been here and they've already got this family. So you're coming in into like the middle of the story. And now you have to like catch up and like try to read all of the chapters like yesterday to kind of get to like what is happening, where do I fit in, what's happening, who am I supposed to be, which we'll get into in a little bit. But it's important to establish new family traditions because then that outsider kind of gets blended in, folded in, and they feel like they belong, which is really important for the new step parent, obviously the partner, but the stepkids as well. It's important for everyone to feel like they belong. So if you've got traditions that you can do together, that's something that where everyone feels like they're belonged and there's not this outsider thing. So ideas of new traditions, maybe at Christmas, whatever you did for your Christmas growing up, like you bring some of those in, or maybe for your birthday, like you really like a big celebration or you like a specific kind of cake. Those are big things, but let's talk about little small things, new traditions that you can do. Transition days when your stepkids are coming or they're going. That is a time as a step parent where it's a lot of like, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of nerves, there's a lot of emotions that come with, specifically if you have your stepkids coming over and maybe you don't have kids at your house or you don't have kids of your own. And so you go from a quiet, peaceful, calm house to now all of a sudden there's chaos and noises and messes and just everything for the next however long that they're there. So new traditions that you could do there, something that we did when my stepson lived here full time, but would still transition back and forth. Every night that he would come, we would always get Chinese food. We had a transition day routine. So that way I knew, okay, we're just going to get Chinese food tonight. I'm not cooking. I'm not going to be cleaning up, but everyone could kind of settle in. We would hang out. Maybe we would watch TV. Maybe we'd go for a walk together. Something super low key just to kind of ease into all of a sudden we're together and we're going to act like one big happy family. Because the stepkids have emotions too, right? Like there's a lot of change that goes on with being at their other parents' house and then now they're coming to your house and maybe there's a massive difference. So it kind of gets everyone to transition into, okay, we're in this new house. Not that it's going to go perfectly on the first night or the first few days, but sometimes it is a little bit of a challenge to just transition into new things. But establish new traditions, get something that you guys can call your own and you can kind of solidify. Here's something that I tell stepmoms because I did this wrong. Early on, in my early years as a stepmom, I wanted nothing to do with any traditions that were prior to me. Like Christmas is a big holiday for me. That's my favorite holiday. And I wanted none of the ornaments that they had, none of the traditions that they had, not the tree, nothing. Please don't do that. If you want them to accept traditions that you've got, you have to be open to traditions that they also have and kind of pick and choose and blend new ones in and give yourself grace in the early years. You're going to be so annoyed at me saying that at the very end. Give yourself grace and give yourself time and give yourself some space to like navigate this. It is a challenge. So be open, pick and choose, but give yourself a lot of grace at the very, very beginning with these traditions. It is weird. It is hard. It is awkward, but you'll get through it. You'll get there. So, and here's how you'll get there. Communication. Communication is key. Open, honest communication is obviously the way to go. Open, honest, direct communication is really great, but maybe you have to work on your delivery. Maybe you have to work on not being so blunt, or maybe you have to work on being a little more diplomatic, as my husband would tell me, because I was right for the juggler. I didn't know how to open and honestly communicate to him without having like all of the emotions coming out. I was kind of a crazy person. But it's been 13 years. We've made it through. You can get your point across and still be firm and direct and kind. You don't have to be a complete jerk about it all of the time. And tips for effective communication. Let's actively listen to what that other person is saying. So if my partner or my husband were to come to me and say, hey, Alicia, when I feel this, when you communicate that, I need to be able to repeat back to him, okay, when I am rage screaming at you, not my shiniest moments, but when I'm rage screaming at him, it puts him on the defense, or it makes him feel less than, or it makes him feel whatever it is. I need to own that and say, okay, you're right. Which is something that was really hard for me to say. You're right. The first time I said it, my husband was like, can we get that on a t-shirt? Like, can you say that again so I can record it? But just owning where you are making the mistakes and sitting down and having a conversation. And this is something that is going to take time. Again, it's going to take time. Maybe you don't know how to communicate that well. Something that we ended up doing was having weekly check-ins on our couch. I would make a list of all of the things that I hated about the week, or things that set me off, or things that really like got to me. And then by the end of the week, I could go through and like cross things out. Like, I don't even need to bring that up anymore. I don't need to bring that up anymore. But one thing I want to drive home for you is work on responding to something and not reacting. And here's what I mean by responding versus reacting. So responding is, okay, I'm going to think about this, or attempt to think about this with a calm, collected, cool head, and process it and then get back to you. Where if I'm reacting, something has just happened. Maybe it was a last minute schedule change. Maybe it was a nasty text message that we got from the other house, or maybe my stepkid just broke something of mine that I didn't want them to break, and I just flip out, or I just react, or I lash out. That is a reaction, right? But here's the thing, you are the one that is in control of your emotions, and it is really hard to get that under control. So this is something that you practice. I do this with my coaching clients all the times. Here are things, here, depending on their situation, here are phrases to practice. Here are things to say to yourself to get you to go from like 100 back down to 0. How many people here, let me know in the comments, how many people here can go from 0 to 60 in like 2 seconds? Because if so, you are my people, but that is not a good thing. So we have to work on not doing that. So let's talk about a few challenges and how to overcome them. And here's where we kind of get into it. I have 3 things that we'll talk about, kind of like a high level, because there are so many things that we can get into when it comes into like a blended family. Like, man, I only have an hour to talk. How many things can I cover? And so I just kind of went broad strokes to not get like too deep in the weeds. So these are the 3 biggest things that I see with step families and stepmoms that I coach, or even in my own community. I do have a community called the Stepmom Side Community. So loyalty conflicts, also known as loyalty binds. This is where kids feel torn between parents. Maybe they feel closer to their mom. Like, let's say that you're the stepmom and you've repartnered with the dad, but the kids feel really close to the mom. So maybe they won't take a liking to you, or they're not going to warm up to you because they're still really close with their mom. And if they like you, that means that they're outing their mom and they don't really like her that much. Or maybe it makes their mom feel jealous or insecure, all sorts of ways. That's one thing that I see. 2, massive, is different parenting styles. When you have differing parenting styles, this is really hard, because if one person, let's say gentle parents, and the other person is authoritarian, like those don't mesh well, or different levels of like cleanliness. Like maybe, one person, me, thinks that you should be able to eat off the floor after you clean it. Also not reasonable. That was definitely me when I showed up, because I showed up on the scene with no kids. So my place prior to living in, or I actually moved into their house, my husband and his ex-wife's house. And where I was before, like my own place, was spotless. Like you could eat off the floors. It was perfect. And then I moved in with kids and I was like, oh my gosh, I think I'm going to have a panic attack, because this is not anywhere near the cleanliness that I thought that it was going to be. And my husband was like, Alicia, that's just life with kids. And I didn't know that, right? Like as a stepmom without kids prior, I had no idea. Give me 1 second. I'm going to take a drink. I always feel kind of weird, like taking drink on cameras, because you guys can all see me. But just getting to like align your rules and your expectations for your house, something that sounds easy, like in theory, but actually doing it is so hard, especially if you are the stepmom and you're coming in and your partner thinks one thing and you think the other, and then like trying to get them together. Tension with the ex is my favorite, because managing your relationship with the ex is unbelievably hard, right? No one has ever said, oh my gosh, I can't wait to grow up and be in a relationship or marry somebody and have to contend with their ex. Never. I definitely didn't realize that. Like when my husband and I met, I was like, oh, so he's been married before, he's got kids. Like, how bad could it be? How bad could it be, really? And then you realize, oh, the kids are always there, or seemingly, right? Even though at that time we were part-time. And it seemed like the ex was walking around in our house and she ran the show, and she was always here and always had a feeling or like a pulse on like what was happening here. And there were so many times that I'm like, wow, I did not know what I was signing up for. My first year of marriage, just to be completely honest with you guys, I Googled on the regular, Dear Google, how do you get divorced in Michigan? Because I'm in the States. How do I get divorced? I found out if I didn't have kids, I didn't have to wait 6 months. There wasn't a 6-month cooling off period. But I also knew, like, crazy about my husband, I was not about to just walk out. But the ex really played a role in that, because it seemed like constant communication. It seemed like constant contact with her. It seemed like I saw her every second of the day. I didn't, but that's how it seemed. So these are common challenges that I see with stepmoms, step parents, in blended families. Obviously, I felt all of these things too. But here's how, sorry. They're like kind of similar, so I just skipped it over. Here's how we can kind of navigate it. So loyalty conflicts, loyalty binds. A big thing that I see specifically with stepmoms is if their stepkid brings up their own mother, like the other house, the stepmom is very quick to shut that down, because it brings up some sort of insecurity, some sort of jealousy, where a lot of times that stepkid is just trying to connect with them or make a relatable story. Like, hey, you know what? Let's say you're baking cookies. Oh yeah, my mom likes to bake and she does this, or she makes really good whatever. And then all of a sudden you're going to get in your feels about that. A lot of the times the stepkid isn't bringing up that other parent to be mean. It's you typically just nefarious. So like they're just bringing it up to relay a story about their own mom. So as hard as it is, encourage kids to express their feelings, and you can validate those emotions. And I'm sure Celia talked on this too about validating emotions, but it's really, really, if you've never done that work, or if you've never had to experience this, it is really hard. And it's exceptionally hard if you've been in a high conflict words are hard, in a high conflict situation, or if there is a lot of conflict at that time. It is really, really hard to sit down and be like, yeah, tell me about your mom. No, that's not what you want to do. What you want to do is just like shut that down. But you can encourage them to express their feelings and validate their emotions without being like, oh yes, tell me more. So if they, let's back to the cookie baking thing, if they are communicating that they like to bake with their mom, or she's a really good cook about this, well, what do you like about the lasagna that she makes, or what do you like about the spaghetti that she makes? Clearly I'm hungry because I'm talking about food. But what do you like about that, or what does she put in there that you like? It doesn't have to be something like, it doesn't have to be this long drawn out conversation. You just have a few questions and then you can redirect the conversation. You're going to get really good at redirecting this. Again, that's going to take time. Differing parenting styles. Here's what I always say. Find common ground, compromise when possible. Compromise when possible. If you don't have the word compromise in your vocabulary, I didn't, please figure out what that word means and add it into your vocabulary. Something else that really works with differing parenting styles is if you have house expectations for your house that everyone, including you and the other parent, follow. Not the other house, but in your house, here's what everyone does. Less is more. Less is definitely more, because if you've got a list of like 100 things that these kids need to follow, how are you going to enforce them? Now you've just added on a full-time job for yourself. When we added in-house expectations, the stress in our house went from 100 down to probably like 50. That might be an exaggeration. Maybe it went down to like 75. A lot of the stressor was like just because of me and like my type A, black and white, everything has to be a certain way. But learn to compromise. Just because something's not done your way doesn't mean that it's not done perfect. So washing dishes, like I said, I'm a neat freak. I love to clean, like that's my jam, and vacuuming, straight lines, all the things. But washing dishes, when I wash them, I like line them up so they drip dry as much as possible. When I'd asked my stepson to wash dishes, he put them balls down, like the bowls were like face down on like a drying mat. So obviously all the condensation is still in there. It's not drying. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he doesn't know. So I'm like, hey, when you are washing dishes, can you do it this way? Oh, well, my mom does it this way. Okay, that's fine. But when you're at my house, can you please try to remember to do it this way? Again, you can correct, but you don't necessarily have to be a jerk about it. Something I had to learn. Tension with the ex. So maintain respect and professionalism. And if you've never heard of these methods, the BIF method, so brief, informative, friendly, and firm, not fun, but firm, or the gray rock method when you're responding to the ex, whether it's via text, whether it's on a phone call, whether it's via email. If you're brief about it, informative, so you're just answering the questions, you're not responding to name calling or accusations or allegations or anything like that. You're friendly, not like, hey, you know, I'm excited to see you. But you're not quite like that, but then also not very short, very curt and very short, but firm. I will get the kids at 5. We're picking them at 5 or whatever it is. Like, this is what we're doing. But again, focus on the kids' well-being. Like, you want to make sure that at the end of the day, the kids are getting what they need, what they want. Just focus on the kids. Whatever the other house is doing to antagonize you, please, 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 please do not engage. Have you ever been there where something has come from the other house and you've like sent it back with a lot of emotion? I've done that. Please don't do that. Learn from my mistakes. Please learn from my mistakes. Well, we'll move on to something that's a little more fun. So ideas and activities to help bonding. And here's a little bit of help to like help you get through, because bonding is weird. You know, like I said, you're coming in like halfway, maybe like a quarter of the way, most of the way through these kids' lives, and you're expected to show up and like try to be all of the things. And it's like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, and if you've never brought kids, or if you don't have kids so you're like, I don't know how to deal with kids, or maybe kids have always liked you, but now there's this insane amount of pressure. I've got you, friend. Here we go. Family activities. So let's plan regular family outings. And if you're like, what are we going to plan? Let me help you. You guys could go on a bike ride. You could go on a picnic, like pack a lunch, take it to a park. You can go to a movie. Maybe, you know, I said when my stepson would come back from his mom's, like that night we would get Chinese food. Maybe that's what you do. Like, you'd go out instead of like, we would just get takeaway. But just plan things for you guys to do together. Movie night, game nights, maybe you go swimming, something that you're going to do together. You're going to bond together, but then also do home-based activities. So you don't have to be out doing something, and it doesn't have to cost you money. A lot of those family outings that I just said don't cost money. You can go for a bike ride, maybe go hiking, you take a picnic by yourself, like just pack your own stuff, take it with you. You do not need to buy your stepkids' love. Hear me when I say that. You do not need to buy your stepkids' love. And when we're talking about these outings, be prepared for the kids to be like, oh, I don't want to do that. A bike ride sounds boring, or it's too hot, or I'm cold, or be prepared. Just be prepared. Pack lots of snacks. Whatever activity you're going to do, if you're going to go somewhere, make sure you've got snacks for the kids, but also for you, because if you start to get hangry, game over. You're going to be irrational too. Home-based activities, you guys can, back to the baking, you guys can bake together, you can cook together. Doing shoulder-to-shoulder activities with kids is really great, because you're not sitting face-to-face like this, where it feels confrontational. So you can just open up and like get them to ask you questions, or you can ask them questions. So baking, cooking, washing dishes, maybe you garden together, maybe you read together, maybe you guys are reading the same book. Like, I've done that with my stepdaughter, like we're reading the same book, and then you can kind of, hey, what did you think about what happened this week? Or what, you know, what's going on? What do you think is going to happen next? Holiday traditions. I did kind of speak about this. So bring in your own holiday traditions. What does that look like? Okay. And then what are your guys' holiday traditions? What does that look like? And how can we blend them together? Again, birthdays might be a big thing for you, but also like get down into the nitty-gritty details about it. Like, what do you want Mother's Day to look like for you? Which I know is a really hard topic, or a really hard holiday for stepmoms. What is Mother's Day going to look like for you? And maybe you celebrate Stepmother's Day, which is the Mother's Day after stepmoms, or after Mother's Day. But if you want to be celebrated on Mother's Day, please communicate that. Your partner cannot read your mind. And if you want nothing, say that too, because then if they do something that's weird, if they don't do anything and you want them to do something, then it's manage our expectations. Again, let's go back to that communication, open, honest communication, and make sure that you give them enough of a heads up, not the day before, to say, hey, I know Mother's Day is coming up, and years past, it's been kind of weird. This year, I don't want it to be weird. Here's what I would like it to look like, or here's how I would like to be celebrated. Because what support looks like for me, or what celebrations look like for me, might be different from you, might be different from the next person. So just communicate what that looks like. And if you're a dad and you want to have Father's Day celebrated, communicate that as well. Like, what do you want that to look like? Or even like your anniversary. Like, what do you guys want to do for your anniversary? What are you going to do? Our anniversary, we do the traditional gifts, like whatever that year is for your traditional gift. And then we might do something small. We typically go out for dinner. We don't do anything crazy, but because, you know, anniversaries like can be insane. So just manage your expectations, communicate those expectations. What do you want them to look like? and then bonding through shared interests. And let me just speak about this for a second before we get into like what we're going to do. If you are struggling in your relationship with your stepkid, I think we've all been there. I've definitely been there, where there are days where you're just like, I am having a really hard time. What I want is to just have a quiet house and not have anyone over. I want to like go to my pity party of one and like just wallow there by myself. Is that you? Like, have you been there? And the last thing that you want to do is spend more time with your stepkid. But here's the thing. It sounds counterproductive or counterintuitive, but typically that's what helps. And I keep going back to this, but I know Celia presented right before I did, and I'm sure she spoke on this too. But a relationship that you are struggling with, sometimes that kid just needs more love or more time with you. And there's this weird dynamic that happens. And I don't know why it happens. And if somebody doesn't know what, maybe Celia knows why it happens, but there's this weird dynamic that happens of when everyone is together. Maybe you've communicated to your partner that you're struggling in your relationship with your stepkids. Maybe your stepkids have said they're struggling. They've said to their parent that they're struggling in their relationship with you. So there's this weird like triangle dynamic that's going on, and never shall the ends meet. And if you go and hang out with your stepkid just one-on-one, that dynamic isn't there. And so if you just try to get to know them outside of their parent, outside of being your stepkid, just get to know them as a person, you would be surprised at what you actually do get to know about them, what they like, what they don't like. You really get to know them. And sometimes you find like they really are an interesting person. And sometimes you're like, they're not my favorite person, but I can hang out with them and I'm going to be okay. And the world is not going to end. That's what we're trying to get to. I don't want you to think that, oh, Alicia said we need to be best friends. No, I don't think that at all. But I would like you guys to be able to be cordial and hang out together and not have it be this weird dynamic. So discover common hobbies. So we talked about baking. Like maybe one of your stepkids, if you've got one or more, like they like baking, maybe they like video games, maybe they like art, maybe they like makeup, maybe they like gardening, maybe they're into working out, maybe they like reading. There's so many different things that you don't know that they like without knowing them, because you've pegged them in this hole of that's just how they are. But get to know them. And I've talked about this before, but my stepson loves video games. I am not a video game person at all, but I used to go and just watch him play video games and ask him questions about what was going on, just to get to spend time with him and get to see him like in his world. Because if you're trying to get to know a kid, make it about them, not necessarily you. Like, here's what I like, and here, let them just be the kid and just get to know them as them. And then once you start to get to know them, then you can open up about your interests and what you're interested in. Or like, oh yeah, I'm interested in this. And that's similar to whatever it is that they like. And encourage them to like, oh, if you find something new that you like come share it with me, or come tell me about it. But if you're sitting there rolling your eyes like, oh my gosh, my relationship with my stepkid is so hard. I see you. And like I said at the beginning, there's a good chance that you're going to be rolling your eyes like, how many times is she going to say, just give it time, just give it time, just give it time. It's not, if it doesn't work on the first time, if it doesn't work on the second time, if it doesn't work on the third time, if it doesn't work on the 10th time, keep trying. And again, here's something else. That one-on-one time that I was talking about, spend time with just them, get to know them, build a relationship outside of their parent, get to build a relationship with just them. And the ideas for one-on-one time, you could go hiking, you could go ride a bike, you could do the baking thing. You guys could go out for ice cream. You can go for a drive. That's a shoulder to shoulder thing. So you guys can open up. Board games, which sounds ridiculous, especially if you've got like preteens or maybe teenagers. Like, they're not going to want to play board games. I promise you they are. They're in this situation of like, I still want to be a kid, but I'm also trying to like flirt with my independence and like get out of here. So anything they can do sometimes to like just be mindful that they are still a kid, or that you still do love them, or you still do want them around. Board games are super great. The sillier, the better. If you have Speak Now, that one's really funny. You have like this big plastic thing that like you can't put your lips together and you have to talk. Super hilarious. A lot of fun to play. So a few words of encouragement, because I know as a step parent, it can be super hard. So first things first, you've got this. I'll be with you the whole way. But your journey is unique. Everyone has their own path, their own journey. Like I said at the beginning, what works for my family might not work for yours, might not work for the next person. It's a buffet, pick and choose what works for you, but it's not a one size fits all. So where do you shine? Like, what are you really good at? Are you a good organizer? Are you a good baker? Are you a good cook? Are you great at cleaning? Are you great at being compassionate? Are you great at getting people to open up to you? Where do you shine? And try to play to those strengths. Like, figure out with you and your partner, what are your strengths? What are their strengths? And kind of feed off of each other in that. And then, like, whatever your weaknesses are, hopefully that's their strength. And then you guys can just flip the ball back and forth between each other and have that communication where you can just say, hey, I'm struggling. I need a little bit of time off. And it's okay. Like, I want to tell you, it's okay for you to say, I'm having a hard time. I need to back out. Celebrate your successes. This is something that I think a lot of step parents are like, well, it's not big enough. That win wasn't enough. Maybe they got through the day without rolling their eyes at their stepkids, or maybe they got through the day without their stepkids rolling their eyes at them. That is a massive win. Like, if you've been struggling, like, celebrate that win. Like, cheers to you. Like, it doesn't matter how big or small that win is. Please take it, because that builds your confidence and it snowballs, and you'll start to see the momentum changing in your relationship, in your dynamic. Again, it takes time. It takes time. You're coming in the middle of this and you're trying to make up for lost time. Give yourself a little bit of space and grace to make mistakes. And then also, like, just celebrate those small wins. Don't compare the middle of somebody else's story to the beginning of yours. Don't look at my story and be like, man, I want to be like Alicia tomorrow. It took me a long time and a lot of tears to get here. And I'm going to try to help you get to where I am without all of the tears. Patience and perseverance, like I was talking, or persistence, I was talking about. Just give yourself time. Go slow. Like, no matter how slow you think you're going, go just a little bit slower, and then a little bit slower than that. It's going to take you time to get through this. Play the long game. That means if you are in a blended family and you're struggling and you typically can't see outside of that problem or outside of that stressor, play the long game. Like, what is your end game? Like, what would you like your goal to be? Do you want to maybe just have a cordial relationship with your stepkids? Maybe you really want to be close to them. Okay, if that's your game, or if that's your goal, what steps do you need to take to get there? Like, let's break it down. Like, what does that look like? And sometimes you're going to think, well, this is what I want it to be. And then your goal changes. That's okay. You just adapt and overcome, readjust, pivot to wherever your new goal is. It's not a big deal. And again, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to adjust the goalpost. It's not a big deal. This role is so fluid. There's so many different things. So let's talk about navigating being a step parent, because what's my role anyway? So let's talk about defining your role. Just like your goals might change over time, your role will change over time. When I met my stepkids, they were 8 and 11. My role then looks very different than it does now that they are grown adults and out of our house. And then I jumped in head first. Highly, definitely do not recommend that. But try to figure out, like, what do you want your role to look like? What's your partner want your role to look like? What do your stepkids even want? Like, do they want you to be more of a friend? Do they want you to be more of like a confidant? Do they want you to take on a mothering role? And it depends on your dynamic too. Like, if you're full-time, if you're part-time, if the other house is in the picture or not in the picture, there's so many dynamics. And if you need help defining your role, if you head to aliciacrasco.com/free, I have a bunch of free resources on there. I have one specifically for defining your role. Go check that out. I also have one on there that's new. I have not even announced it yet. So if you follow me on Instagram and you haven't seen this, it's because I haven't announced it yet. I just put it up yesterday. 30 activities to bond with your stepkids at any age. And I have it broken down by age. And a lot of them you can use at different ages. But if you need help defining your role, aliciacrasco.com/free. All of my free resources are on there. So balance about your role. There are times where you're going to be the leading actor, or sometimes you're going to be the supporting one. Sometimes you're going to be the invisible, like, stagehand help. You're going to be behind the scenes, and you're not going to get any recognition for anything. But most of the time, that's really what you're going to be, is like behind the scenes. depending on, again, like what your dynamic is with your family. So don't get too comfortable wherever you are now, because soon enough, in another 6 months, maybe tomorrow, maybe another year, your role is going to change and you're going to be like, how do we get here? Like, I feel like we went 20 steps forward and then like 200 steps back. It's the only constant is change, my friend. Like, listen to me when I tell you the only constant is change. But we're going to work on just building relationships. Like I said, sometimes it feels like you take, one step forward and maybe 30 steps back. We're working on the long game. We're working on building relationships. So again, bonding, kind of like building the relationships. Like, we're going to find common interests. We're going to be patient. We're going to show an interest in your stepkid, because a lot of times kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And if you're so caught up in telling them all about what you know, they don't really care that much. But how much do you care about them as a person? Do you have their best interests at mind? If so, they're going to be a lot more open and receptive to you and how you're coming in. So show interest in them, show them that you care about them, which, again, easier said than done. Follow their lead too. Sometimes they have bad days. Maybe they had a bad day at school. Maybe they didn't do so well on a test. Maybe their sports practice or their sports game didn't go well. Maybe they're fighting with a friend. Maybe they're fighting with their other house. Maybe they're just having a bad day. I mean, as adults, we have bad days. So follow their lead. If they seem like they're in a mood, hey, you know what? I'm here. If you want to chat, come find me. Go back and check on them in a little bit. If they're receptive to you, do that too. I feel like as a step parent, there's so many like, do this, but not too much, and do that, but not too much, or do that, but not too little. There's so many different things. Again, the only constant is change. But yeah, if you can tell that there's a vibe, like, please give them a little bit of space, or, go to your partner and say, hey, I noticed that insert subkid looks like they might be struggling, or it looks like they might be down. Can you just check on them? Or, depending on your relationship, like, you could go back and check on them too. But just follow their lead, which is really hard to sometimes just sit on your hands. Let's talk about self-care for you. We've talked about everyone else, but now let's talk about self-care for you. Because so many step parents jump in head first, stepmoms specifically jump in head first, they come up for air 6 months, couple years later, and they're like, how did I get here? Like, who am I? I don't even recognize who I am. I'm burnt out. I'm irritated. I'm frustrated. I don't like who I am. I'm a shell of my former self. I don't even do anything that I want to do. I do all of these things for all of these other people. That's where everything kind of goes sideways. But what brings you joy? Do you like reading? Do you like working out? Do you like gardening? Do you like traveling? Go back and find that person who you were prior to being a step parent. Find out what that person really liked. Go reconnect with that person, whether it's going out for dinner with your friends or getting coffee like at lunchtime with a friend, going to workout classes with your friends. Whatever that person liked to do, go back and find him or her and do those things that she liked to do. I always say find support, get it early and often. And I think a lot of people say, Alicia, that's easy for you to say because you're a coach. I say that out of like complete compassion for being a step parent, because I went through it. Like I said, my first year, I was like, dear Google, how do I get to crying? Like, so many sleepless nights, so many nights I cried myself to sleep because I didn't have the support. I didn't know what I didn't know. And this role is really hard to navigate on your own, especially if you're not bringing kids into the situation. So get support, whether it's a community. If you need a community, hey, I'm Alicia, I have a community, the Stepmom Side community. If you need coaching, guess what? I'm also a coach. I can help you with that too. You need therapy or like coaches, like couples therapy. Please get support. You do not need to do this alone. It is so hard as is. Please get the support. Please find out who you are, like reconnect with yourself. I promise you that the world will still twirl, like your world will still twirl, even if you step back and find things that bring you joy. But that's a wrap. I want you to go out into the world, be a great step parent, but not at the expense of yourself. Like, I want you to be a great step parent for you, for your partner, for your stepkids, obviously too. But today we've talked about how to blend, common challenges and how to overcome them, ideas and activities to help with blending, navigating being a step parent, a few words of encouragement, and now I'm going to open it up for Q&A. So thank you guys so much for coming. I appreciate your time. And now I'm going to open for Q&A. I'm going to go back.
Thank you so much, Coach Alicia.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm like trying to go back through the comments and like see what I can like answer.
Okay.
Not quite.
Just smiling here because I have like 4-5 pages written, and
Good.
I didn't want your session to end.
Oh,
It's
thanks.
mind blowing.
Good.
I'm not a stepmom, but I was imagining myself in there because I have them around me.
Mm-hmm.
I have a very wonderful friend. I'm grateful she's an inner circle. I'm very sure she's on this stream right now. And all I could just do was just picture her doing all these things, in an amazing way. Thank you so much
You're
for this
welcome.
awesome session. My co-moderator, what do you have to say about this amazing session? Because I'm trying to find words, but I'm lost of words because I didn't want to stop writing. Please, what do you have to say?
Oh no, we can't hear you.
I
I
get
see the comments that are like, "Oh no, she talks so fast." I'm like, I know that I'm gonna run out of time, so I apologize for those of you that are like, "You talk really fast." I'm like, "I'm so sorry."
actually, to me, you were really, really perfect for me.
Oh, perfect, thanks. But I know
You
you can go
were.
back and like watch the video like a little
Exactly,
bit. Yeah.
exactly. So please, do we have a question and some questions in the comment section for our amiable speaker?
Let's see. I'm going through to like look and see. You have to accept their traditions if you want them to accept yours. Yeah, it's definitely a give and take for sure. And working on responding and not reacting. That is the hardest thing, especially when you have all of these triggers that come up and you're just seeing red because you're so angry that you're just like, whatever comes out, right? But it takes a lot to just be like, okay, I'm going to take a few deep breaths. I'm going to try to regulate my nervous system before I respond. Listen, I was not good at that. I was so not good at that.
All right, do we still have any other question? And before the question is projected, thank you once again for this session, ma'am.
You're welcome.
I'm
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm grateful. I'm also grateful to moderate this session for you. Now, talking about, support and all that, that's why we have the Inner Circle program for us. It's an amazing platform, amazing academy where you have, in my own opinion, the right support ever. And everything, and I mean everything you talked about, everything is being discussed by our amiable coach, Wendy Ologe. Okay, we have a question here. What kind of question? Okay. Should
What
you
kind of
be
question
asking
should
a
you ask?
potential husband who has children about his kids is if he is showing interest in you? Please go ahead, ma'am.
Oh man, okay. So there are so many things that you could ask, but unless you're a stepmom, like you're not gonna get it. Like once you're in that role, like it would be great for me to sit here and say, like, oh, you know what you should ask him is what's his custody schedule like? What is his relationship like with his previous partner? What is like what does he want his role for you to look like? I think that's a really great question to ask because if you show up and that those expectations haven't been communicated, you're probably going to take on things that you don't necessarily want to take on, but you feel like you have to take on. And same thing, he's probably going to delegate things to you. But having that open communication of, okay, if we're going to partner up, what does this look like? What is our life going to look like? And it sounds really granular and really grainy and really like nitpicky to say, let's work out who is doing what on what days. But again, it's expectations. Like what do you want from me? How can I help out? What do I want from you? But those conversations are not sexy. But what they do is build the foundation for you guys to move forward. And it's not going to be seamless. There's always some sort of challenge when you are a step parent. But
Exactly.
just getting that foundation, because at the end of the day, like you guys need to be communicating. You need, like, I would say, like, you guys need to have a really solid friendship to like make this work. And if you guys don't have that communication, you don't have that really good relationship, there's a good chance that it's not going to work. That's why 71% of relationships end in divorce if there are kids, like with a remarriage. But yeah, just getting clear on your expectations. But then also, when you become a step parent, know that things are going to be hard. That's why I say get help early and often, because things are going to come out of nowhere and you are not going to have any idea. There's a lot of times that your own childhood and whatever happened in that bubbles up, because I thought, I've never been married. I don't have any kids. Like, I'm going to show up to this relationship basically perfect. So this is so good. No, that's not, that's not how it went. I had my own things that I had to work through. Like I said, very type A, very black and white. I didn't operate in a gray area. And when you have kids, it doesn't work like that. So there's a lot of your own personal work that you also have to do. But yeah, I would say the best question for you to ask somebody that you're interested in or dating, if they've got kids, is what does our relationship look like? What is that dynamic going to look like to you? How is it going to play out?
Thank you so
Yeah.
much for that beautiful explanation. And as you were talking, all what that was coming into my head was my amiable coach's voice. Extend grace.
Mm-hmm.
Extend grace. And I repeat, extend grace. Give yourself time. It
Mm-hmm.
is really going to work out. So far, you have the right mindset, and what you're bringing on the table is something that is going to be good for everyone. Just extend grace upon yourself. We have another question here. What happens if the step kids refuses to cooperate? Please help us out in this
This is a
situation.
great question, because that's probably going to happen. And if I could just like package it up in a nice little bow and give it to you, I would be a millionaire. But there again are so many dynamics when it comes to this too. If your stepkid refuses to cooperate, depending on your relationship with them, the best thing may be to have your partner, their parent, take over. Because what's going to happen is if you try to force it, they're just going to dig their heels in. And what's going to happen is you guys are just going to go like this. And there's never going to be a chance of you guys to come like this, because you're driving a wedge in there, right? And I think a lot of step parents get caught in that of like, I'm the parent, listen to me, do what I say. No, we need to do connection over correction. So if they're not doing what you need to say, like I would say, take a step back, work on building that relationship with your stepkid. If you've got house expectations, we do. Everyone agrees to them. You sit down to a family meeting. When we did house expectations, I thought I was going to puke, sit down at the table, and I was like, I do not want to be here. I'm going to sit on my hands so I don't leave. I was super nervous about it. But everyone agrees to the house expectations. This is what we do. Less is more. We had 7 of them. Less is more. But if they're refusing to cooperate, as hard as it is, please try to leave that up to the other parent or to their parent, because it will drive a divide between you and that kid, but then also you and that parent. Remember the differing parenting styles. Maybe you're like the authoritarian that's like, do as I say, do as I say, do as I say. And this kid is like, no. And maybe your parent, and maybe your partner parents differently. Go and have a conference with them, the other, your partner, the other parent, and just talk to them like, here's what we're going to do. Come up with a game plan. You guys need to be a united front. And then you can address the kid together. And sometimes you see the step kid will just not do it because the step parent said not to. But if their parent says to, like, they'll do it. It depending on the dynamic, like you guys can sit down, the 3 of you. Hey, Alicia is a parent in this house, and we agree to these house expectations. If she's asking you to do something, just think of it as an extension of me asking you to do something as well. And there's so many different dynamics, but connection over correction. Typically they're refusing because maybe there's a loyalty bind also with the other family. Like, just spend time getting to know them. And in that situation, you probably don't want to. You're like, I don't want to spend time with them. I just want them to do what I'm saying. You've got to build that connection. You've got to put in the work, because it's really, really, really hard. But connection over correction, I'll talk to you about it all day long.
Thank you once again. You mentioning connection before correction reminds me as well of our first book we read in Inner Circle. And before I go ahead, if you are read, you have not thought, or you are still thinking of registering to be in the Inner Circle program, please, this is the right time for you to book that slot. You can see the message scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Message the number or call the number That's the account details. Just book with 5,000 naira. By the end of November, balance it up, and 1st of December 2024, you'll be in the Inner Circle program. I tell you, that program, Inner Circle, has been, to me, it's my safe aboard. Inner Circle is the hype. We read the book Connect to Correct, and everything Alicia said just has to do with connection. You connect first before you correct. You connect. Thank you very much for projecting that. You connect before you correct. You can't correct and now want to connect. I mean, how is that done? You have your own things you are bringing in. These children also have theirs. But you first have to connect with them. It's just like bringing a magnet and a needle together. Before they can merge together, they have to be a connection. They just have to be a connection. And thank you so much for emphasizing on that connection. Connect before correction. Do we still have any other question, please?
I did see some more, like when I was just scrolling. So Jennifer said, we did not talk about when you have kids too, the relationship between the kids. So my stepkids are 15 and 18 years older than my daughter. She's now 5. And my stepson moved in when she was like 5 months old. And then he was here for the first 3 years of her life. And my stepdaughter was out of the house in college. So my stepson and my daughter were very, 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 very close. And then he left because he graduated high school and like he left to do his own thing. I'm going to try not to cry when I explain this to you, but she was old enough, like young enough, but like old enough to know that like he was gone. And we are still very, very close, but I saw him every day. I talked to him every day. Even if we were together, like we were still texting each other, like we're this close and we're like texting each other, like what is happening? We were very, very close. And his car, I have goosebumps. His car was still here, but he wasn't here. So she would stand at the kitchen window and say, where is he? When is he coming back? And I was like, he's gone. Like, he's not coming back. Like, he's gone. And then like, finally, like one of his friends was buying his car. And so his car was gone and that made it easier. But how do you answer to a 3-year-old? Like, when is my brother coming back? And not like cry yourself. Right. But then now like he's overseas. And so we video chat him or we call him on the regular. So she gets to see him and like talk to him. My stepdaughter is an hour and a half ish away. So we see her regularly too, but their relationships are different because of like how life had just played out. But that's something that can factor in. Like if let's say that you don't like one of your stepkids, you can taint the view of your kid with them. And that's definitely not something that I think that you should do. But then also when you have your own kid or you bring in your own, like ours baby, it also softens your view on your stepkids and you get to see them in a different light and you get to see how they are with your own kids. So it is very different. And maybe things that you didn't think about them, you now think about them, or things that you think about them, like you no longer think about them. Things can change so much when you add an ours baby. And sometimes it feels like there's this pressure on the ours baby to like be the glue that like keeps everyone together. And I felt that a little bit like when she was born, but it just changes, like it changes everything. And especially if you're a stepmom that came in and you didn't have kids, you finally feel like, okay, I have something or someone that is now mine. And it kind of gives you a lot of perspective, like as a parent to be like, oh, okay, maybe if they're not asleep, lights out at 8:00 every night, and it's not going to be the end of the world. 8:15 is okay. It lets you like loosen the reins a little bit. If you're a control freak or a recovering control freak, like it lets you loosen the reins a little bit. There's a lot of perspective that comes in, like when you have your own kid. You don't know what you don't know, right? There's so many things that you don't know.
Thank you for sharing that thoughtful story.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Another
Thank
question.
you. Yeah.
Can I ask more questions?
Right now, we can't take any
That's
other
okay.
question. Thank you so much
You're so welcome
for this wonderful opportunity Thank you for sharing with us. Thank you that we learned a whole lot. And I'm very sure every of our participants that are not yet Yadas are going to make good use of this opportunity to register for the Inner Circle program. Thank you so much once again, ma'am. It was really
You're
an honor to
welcome.
have you and also to moderate this session for you.
Thank
God
you so
bless
much for
you.
having me. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, my wonderful coach, Wendy Ologe. Thank you so much, Amiable team. I will say again, you need to be in Inner Circle. Inner Circle is a game changer. Inner Circle changed my life. I've been in the yard for 2 years now, and I will say for free and for a fact that I'm a better person. 2 years down the line, I am a better person, and I'm also getting better. Because in Inner Circle, you get to learn, relearn, and unlearn. Because parenting is first about you, not your child. To sign up to join Inner Circle program 2025, the message is right on the screen. Book a slot with 5,000 naira today, like right now, and join the ARC. God bless you, and do have an amazing evening. And I will have an amazing afternoon over here. God bless you.
Them to build concentration and focus. Like, it has also improved their creativity massively.
Well, the journey so far has been so sweet in Inner Circle for me, because I'm now enjoying peace. And of course, the aspect of the undivided attention is now the story of the past. And of course, the children, we've been able to teach the children on how to take risks and on how for them to be responsible. And of course, we've been able to inculcate the place of our family value and also to follow them on how they can deploy this family value outside there.
Yeah, so I would encourage parents who are not in the Inner Circle, parents to be who are not in the Inner Circle yet. It's the place to be. There's a peace that comes with being in the Inner Circle. There's a calm, like I'm parenting from the place of calm because I have knowledge, because I'm equipped with wisdom to parent my children right. Like in the past, I used to be that parent who, when preparing my children for school, there's this chaos. Now it's something that I can no longer relate with because I've established routines, I've established a pattern, I've established structures in my home. So that's what being in the Inner Circle has equipped me with. I'm sure that every parent wants to enjoy this. So please come and join us in the ark of safety.
Yeah, Inner Circle is a place to be.
Yes, sir.
If you are still thinking, please join the next law.
My name is Omolara Adeyemi. I'm an Inner Circle parent. I joined the TIP in 2022. Coincidentally, it was the TIP annual conference when David Folaranmi was talking that got me wondering, what's this? And I quickly clicked the link and I joined. Paid for the 2022 Inner Circle program, and that was how it started. Before I joined, I could say to anyone who cared to listen that I am an intentional parent. You know, as I joined and I started with all the classes, with all the courses, I discovered that, wow, I haven't even started. What's this? This coach is really gifted. What's she talking about? And I started putting into practice. I did a lot of courses. You know, I used to be a yearler. I used to be the helicopter parent, you know. And as time went by, the first course was the emotional intelligence course. I said, what is this? There should be. This is another level of parenting. You know, before we used to hear that adage, there's no manual for parenting. I tell you, that's a big lie that's been sold to us. There's a manual for parenting. We need to follow it. So I started following. What actually changed my life completely was the healing from childhood trauma. There were a lot of things I didn't know existed that was brought to the fore for me, and it changed the trajectory of my parenting. And I can tell you that no, I am no longer a yeller. The things, the knowledge that I have gained, you know, one thing that endeared me to Coach Wendy is the fact that she uses the scripture to teach. Proverbs 9 verse 9 says, give instruction to a wise man, he will yet be wiser. Teach a just man, and he will increase in learning. I think there's a level of learning in parenting that we need to know. We need to learn, we need to unlearn, and we need to relearn. That's what I'm doing. My life has been transformed completely. In fact, at a point, my husband had to say, look, I see a lot of changes in you with the children, the connection. I tell you, the connection I have with my children is unquantifiable. The daily tasks, even though most of the time I'm not able to do it because my children are in a boarding school. 2 of them just finished university, and the young man just finished secondary school. You could say that because your children are adults that you don't need it. I tell you, the things that are taught at the Parents Academy is a must for every parent. Start where you are, whether you have young children, whether you have young adults. It is a place to be for parents. Thank you, and